Attention, attention all Jedi Knights. There has been a disturbance in the Force. Several troubling reports suggest the end of civilization as we know it because the world may be turning upside down. Banalities prevail this political season, except for Donald Trump, who runs a very successful reality TV campaign. It's like SpongeBob for president. But unlike the beloved and guileless cartoon character, Trump calls himself a Christian while brandishing a Bible to the delight of disenfranchised white evangelicals, standing room only, which is the equivalent of using a McDonald's bathroom and calling yourself a Happy Meal. It's a little scary and more than a little disingenuous because it comes with an angry mob and a knotted length of rope draped from a sturdy, low-hanging branch in the shade of a mighty cottonwood. Gasoline is considerably cheaper by more than half these last days, thank God. This puts about $100 a month back in my pocket. Whatever happened to the economic prognosticators who assured us we are running on empty because the brutish Chinese middle class have been consuming all those precious natural resources we superior Americans have been so conscientiously conserving? Which, by the way, could explain another concern. Did the Chinese make off with a substantial portion of the middle of our class when they took all our jobs? Because it seems to have diminished precipitously across the American economic landscape. According to a court in Cleveland, it's now okay for police to gun down black children in the street. This practice was limited to black men before the court's decision. Can you hear the lamentation of Rachel weeping? I celebrated Christmas in Ohio this year on the patio at 67 degrees Fahrenheit. Of course, this sent those climate change goofballs into a frothing tizzy, proclaiming the planet as being rendered uninhabitable. What fools with such extremist rhetoric! Don't they realize mid-60s mercury is quite modest? But as a person of faith, I confess I may have compromised my trust in God's faithfulness. Perhaps I've inhaled too deeply those intoxicating urgencies of the fear-porn media, who tend to ferret out the worst in a story for ratings' sake. A more balanced view of the world may suggest a far less panic-stricken perception. Maybe the sky isn't falling after all. I need look only nearby to regain serenity. Behold, the Cleveland Browns, model of consistency and stability, albeit an inglorious one. Ah yes, Cleveland, Atlantis on Erie, if you will, sanguine city along the mighty lakeshore lapping, Midwestern metropolis of the mundane and mendacity. And how about them Browns, that mockery of professional sports, with a front office more dysfunctional than 3 snake handlers twice bitten and a methed-up bridal party under surveillance and under full-fevered blue moon of Kentucky. Blessed Cleveland, there's much to account for in grateful admiration. The Cleveland Clinic, that pearl of great price, medical institution, envy of professional caregivers throughout the world, and destiny of the infirmed beyond the horizon. Joe Thomas, grunting and grinding his way toward inevitable Hall of Fame enshrinement, and doing so with dignity and grace. Any dinner table ever graced by the artistry of Master Chef Michael Simon. That iconic pyramidal architecture of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and its contents. For further evidence that the world hasn't turned topsy-turvy, perhaps a quiet visit to the water's edge of the Cuyahoga River, whose waters still run downhill. Incidentally, this toxic watercourse hasn't reignited since the famous 1969 conflagration captured the imagination to the degree that its images made the cover of Time magazine. The return of prodigal son LeBron James and the subsequent resurgence of the Cavaliers. Cleveland is probably closer to Canada than most of the rest of us, and nobody has issues with Canadians, so that makes Cleveland close to cool. God's tender mercies and loving kindness endure forever, even in Cleveland. There, you see, it's time to pump the brakes on all that apocalyptic froth and failing. When in doubt, look to Cleveland as a reminder that the world hasn't ended. All is well, and all will be well. Atlantis is only sinking. A middle-aged woman friend of mine was recently smitten awake, and when she emerged from slumber, she clearly heard the voice of God say to her, "Daughter, arise, I've come to take you home. You've only 6 months to live, so get your affairs in order." "But my Lord," she cried out, "I'm not so far along, and there's so much I still want to do." "Very well," came the reply. "Go marry a poet and move to Cleveland." "Yes, my master," she said with great relief. "And by so doing, will you, O Lord, restore to me the length of days?" she asked. And the Lord said, "No, my daughter, but it'll be the longest 6 months of your life."